welcome everyone to our event. We are IxDA Budapest. I'm Gábor Suvajda. I will be your host, but I won't talk too much. Yeah, please come a bit closer. You will have to have a good look at the screen. Okay, for today, we will talk about the future of design, where is design heading, and we have Leube here with us. He's a design anthropologist and a lecturer at many universities, including MOME. About tonight, so we will have a presentation from Michal, as I said, that will take like 30-40 minutes. I urge you to take notes and maybe questions even, because we will have plenty of time to ask questions and have a discussion. And whoever has the best question will win a book of Michal about the subject of tonight. I think it's a really good chance, because otherwise it's really hard to get a copy. I mean, at least I ordered mine months ago and it's still not here. So, so it's really a good chance. Maybe I might have a good question or not, I don't know. So after the presentation, feel free to use the bar, have some drinks and snacks. We have water and lemonade and some snacks around. And what else what I want to say? Yeah, make sure to follow us on our channels. You can look up IxDA Budapest, Instagram, Substack, Meetup, whatever. And that's all. Have a nice evening, and peace.
Thank you so much. I would actually prefer to talk without the mic. Will this work or will this not work? Yes? Huddle in, come in closer if you have a hard time with this. But anyway, let's get into this. Like he said, we will have a presentation from my part, and then we will have a discussion up here, and then I would very much like to hang out with all of you in here, open-ended. I already saw a really nice beer that I'm going to have right after. Thank you so much for coming. This is really, really special. It took me about 4 years to write this thing. Started during the pandemic, and it was a real pandemic project. An old student of mine wrote me an email where he said, I was in your class a few years back, and some of your thoughts are still circling in my head. And if I write down any of this, and I said, nope. And he said, you're an idiot? And then I started writing. That was the email correspondence. And 4 years later, it's out, so thank you. Okay, so I'm going to dump a whole bunch of information on you. It might get dark in here, as some of my students can attest. I have so much respect for design. I'm not trying to make fun of design. I simply think we can use design for very important ends, and I don't see that so often. Okay, so on that note, let's get going. I divided this into actually the last part of the book where I redesign a curriculum for design schools. I see a lot of very young and excited students coming into design schools. They roll up their sleeves, they say they want to change the world, make beautiful objects, and then we just pump their brains full of marketing. And I don't think that's an especially good idea. So I design a kind of a department of future designers, and so I'm kind of going backwards like Memento or something. We'll start with that, okay? Here are the pillars that I think we should be teaching the designers of the future, okay? So first is obviously circular systems. Every single ecosystem, every natural system on this planet, without an exception, has a circular economy. Thank you for coming. Cool. Every single species has a circular economy except us. So in that statement, there's a lot of pessimism and optimism. Optimism, if they can do it, we can do it. We're the only ones that have come up with the concept of garbage. Okay? Every other system has waste, but not garbage. Garbage is hard to undo, hard to reverse engineer or recycle composites of materials. That's my definition of garbage. And that needs to become circular, and we need to teach our designers to do that. I think that's quite obvious. Life in an ethical and sustainable way has become a weak evolutionary strategy. So I come from anthropology, and I will be using a lot of anthropological and evolutionary logic. It is difficult nowadays to live a sustainable and a ethical life. It is much, much easier to live unsustainably and unethically. You have to go out of your way to be vegan and carbon neutral and zero waste or whatever it might be that you are aiming for. Now, here's my first provocation. In many ways, it has become so easy due to design. Homo sapiens sapiens will always follow the path of least resistance. Design has made that possible. It has made it possible for us to be quite wasteful, in case you haven't noticed. So the circular economy is obviously the only system. This might sound arrogant, but me coming from the anthropological sciences and biology, we live on a finite planet. There's no extra stuff coming in. There's no planet B, and so obviously it has to be circular and not linear. And so this is what we need to teach to our students. This sounds kind of infantile, but it is a profound thing, actually. Not because I'm profound, but this is the basic principle of cradle to cradle. You cannot throw anything away. It's bullshit, right? I can throw something away into a garbage can, but it's still there. It's as stupid as a little kid saying, you can't see me, you can't see me. You cannot throw anything away. What does that mean? That means that everything that has ever been made by human beings, from Homo habilis, all the way to now, will be here forever. And I don't care if you're into digital products. You need to display your digital products on something. So some of it will be in use. Some of it will be recycled, a tiny little sliver of it. And most of it will end up in our air, incinerator, or into our drinking water, landfill. This is not an opinion. Okay, this is a fact. You cannot throw anything away. And like fish, we have stopped seeing the incredibly wasteful system that we have created around ourselves as a species. We stop seeing it, and we almost think it's kind of normal. A lot of our current linear economy, which is based on taking stuff out of Earth's biosphere, making stuff into difficult composites, and then wasting it, is based on inadequacy. A lot of our sales are based on making people feel so 2023, ugly and fat. And I'm not a fan. Now, I know I just attacked marketing, and I will continue to do so. But I do think that design is become a accomplice of marketing. And I'm not a fan. I think design is so incredibly powerful, and I think we can apply our skill set to some very different problems. I'm not going to waste too much time on this, and this is not just a provocation. I am quite serious. If somebody can come up with a better hypothesis than thinking of our current runaway consumerism as not semi-religious. We'll talk about it for sure. But how would you explain somebody sleeping outside of a flagship store of Apple for the latest drop of an iPhone if it's not similar to the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca? I do think it's a semi-religious phenomenon. I do think that Steve Jobs and other designers and product managers have a priestly status. This is optimism. If you can make people behave in a semi-religious form, then you are powerful. Design is powerful. Many times I find myself having a stronger, a better, a more respectful definition of design than designers themselves. We've become used to this kind of stuff, but just a couple of weeks ago, Tim Cook got up on stage and he basically said, folks, last year I was lying. The 15 actually sucks. Now you need the 16. This has become a cultural institution that CNN and BBC and whatever else reports on, but it's an enculturated, globalized event of obsolescence. Let's be honest here. I don't think I am important enough to have a microprocessor that is faster than the 15. And I'm certainly not good enough for those cameras. I think we've become quite arrogant, and again, this is just an example. Companies, designers, because this did not fall from the sky. Designers making us feel that perhaps every time we have a new gadget, we need a different type of electricity. Now, if you think I'm some sort of a conspiracy talking hippie, how many of you have a cable salad in your house? How many of you have hardware that has become obsolete by software, i.e. old tablets, old phones, old whatever? All of you. You don't need to raise the hand. And those things stay in a kind of a limbo of things, right? We're like, you can't recycle this, I better hang on to it. And at some point in springtime, you will say, springtime cleaning, I'm throwing it to hell, incinerator. And there are some companies that I have a lot of respect for that refurbish these items and pull out the most necessary elements and bring them back into use, which would be heaven of things. I think we treat our things like shit, in case you haven't understood me. Think about the last time you communicated with your thing, and I'm not talking about an AI necessarily, but when was the last time you yelled at your car or your phone for not starting up? It's always in anger. It's always in anger. When's the last time you said, whoa, what a beautiful thing, thank you for making my life easier? So in many ways, me coming from anthropology, I think we have made ourselves, we have domesticated ourselves. And as I like to say in class, my dear student, we have made ourselves into fat-ass domesticated poodles. You didn't understand that reference? So I'll explain. The poodle comes from the wolf. Okay. We have become super cushy, super convenient, driven in our lifestyle approach. I need to move kind of fast. I'm sorry. Every single one of those points I'm making deserve a long discussion over that IPA that I'm eyeing. But I need to get a lot of information across. Open design, this is a tough one for me, I have to admit. I'm all for open source. And this is a beautiful example from a Berlin-based NGO called Kukula that bought the right, or actually were given the right to make your own furniture from an Italian designer. And Why do I have a problem with this? Because then OpenAI came along. How cheeky is that? There's nothing open about AI, about OpenAI. Do you think they show you their mother code? I don't think so. You know what's open about it? Us shoveling information into the large learning system to make the robot overlord to sound dramatic. It's us working for free. Every time you fiddle around with OpenAI, we're actually just working free for them. So I use that term a little bit less now, but I do think it is very important to get past trademarks, to get past copyright issues. Which takes me to the next slide. I'm sorry, I have to go through all of this stuff so fast. I love this, right? And I would love to just talk and talk and talk, but I do have a time limit. This is my drug, right? It is adrenaline, pure adrenaline. We need to teach our students, our designers of the future, we need to teach them the difference between usership and ownership. The root of all evil, again, it sounds kind of pathetic, but the root of all evil is that we are making extremely complex pieces of composites that are owned privately by as many people as possible. Design is all about scaling, right? Okay, good, but you can't recycle any of this stuff. We can't recycle much at all, if we're totally honest with ourselves. So ownership is the idea of somebody owning something, using something, instead of having it for private property. So if I want to put up a beautiful piece of art or a screen or something, what do I need? Do I need my own self, my own owned posh drill? Or no, I need a hole in the wall. Are you following me? We need to move to utility and away from materiality. Is this an attack on your design profession? Zero. I'm creating, not me, but we are creating much more jobs here, because you need a killer app to make this happen. You need to have accountability so people don't vandalize things or throw things into rivers, like our e-scooters. You need to have really good product design because lots of people are going to use this stuff. You need to be universal so that everyone can use it and be inclusive in your design, right? And we absolutely need interaction design, obviously, because you're scaling to a whole bunch of people with different hand sizes, different brain capacity, neurodiversity, etc. This is the kind of inclusivity I think we should be talking about, instead of wondering, what pronouns to use. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think that is the tip of the iceberg, personally. I think as designers, we can do a lot better in terms of inclusivity. So we trade a whole bunch of things. We trade bicycles, and we trade cars, and we trade scooters, and we trade books. It's called library. But would we rent in a sharing economy? Would we rent an old beat up mattress that hundreds of people have slept on and done all kinds of things on for a few hours? It's called hotel. Of course we do, right? And here's my point. So what I tried to do there, I'm not sure if it worked, and thank you for not spoiling this one. Nice one. What I tried to do there is I tickled your paleo mind. I made you think of germs. I talked about disgusting use of mattresses. I tickled your paleo mind that hasn't moved that much in about 40,000 years. Another small attack on your vanity, because we all feel so modern. You have not changed very much at all in about 40,000 years. Not your body and not your mind. And what makes this counterintuitive thing possible is design, because there's an interface between object, the mattress, and user, the person going to the hotel. It's called bedsheet. Completely, literally the interface. When I say things like interface, stop thinking of computers, please. Right? The interface in this example is the bedsheet. And if I continue that bedsheet to a really, really nice minibar and a really nice espresso bar downstairs and a really cool shower and very hygienic room, then of course we go to hotels and Airbnb. Point being, it is design that makes this possible. You need to make, because I can't design shit, I need your help, right? You need to make car sharing so attractive. So attractive. The reason we have a problem with traffic jams, and some people gave up coming, is because everybody is in love with their privately owned vehicles. How do you, if I ask designers, how do you reduce traffic jam if you think traffic jam is an issue? How do you reduce traffic jam? Do you make larger roads or smaller roads? The answer is definitely smaller roads. You need to make it annoying as hell, and you need to make public transportation beautiful, ergonomically well designed, fun, whatever. I find that a very, very, very meaningful job description for designers. Let's move to a second part that we could call creative anthropology. When I stumbled into the world of design over 10 years ago, I saw this as kind of like a salvation almost, because we talk, right? We can talk and we can point to problems, but then we leave the stage and we're impotent as anthropologists. So I think of my profession kind of like this. I might point to the problem, not me specifically, but anthropologists point to the problem, what is happening, evolutionary theory, and then I hand this information to designers, service designers, interaction designers, UX designers, fashion designers, car designers, product designers, you name it, and you run. That's my vision. That's what I do, or try to do. So, of course, research has to be contextual. It has to be contextual. Let's be, once again, honest here in general. Let's be honest in this. I'm being very honest with yourself. I ask the same of everyone else that I meet, I think. Let's be honest. UX and a lot of qualitative research and quantitative research is based on individuals to like or not like something. And we then scale it. Research only makes sense contextually, because here's an important thing. And my wife always says, don't do this little party trick, because it's undignified. But I keep doing it because it gets the job done. Here we go. I am a super simple organism right now, okay? Some virus or something, okay? And I come into existence and I just do X, right? I'm just walking. I do X or this way. Walking. What did I just demonstrate here? The function of life itself, of behavior, is in situation X, do appropriate behavior X. In situation Y, obstacle, do behavior Y. If you want to change humans, you have to change the context. Those of you who are in a relationship know what I'm talking about. You can't change your partner. But you can change the environment around your partner by bringing some flowers, by doing the dishes, by taking care of the kids, or whatever. Do you see that difference? Behavior does not make any sense in a vacuum. It's always context specific. So when human beings are born, we're like, metaphorically, we're in the wrong movie. Here's what I'm trying to say. You were born at some point, different ages here, right? We were born at some point, And we came into this world, wrong. We came out of this world, if anything. You don't say a tree grows into the world, do you? We came out of this world and into this culture that is not a semantic little thing here. That's important. We're not outside of nature. Love your inner ape. That's a good one for an accident. Inner ape. Seriously, I think the main problem is this idea that we're somehow above nature. Get used to your inner ape. And when we are born as little apes, beautiful little apes, we look around at birth, and our mind cannot comprehend artificial light, artificial climate, AC, right angles. Right angles don't exist in nature. Yeah, they do in the crystal. But you can only see that in a microscope. Right? So all of this stuff around here, we have to get enculturated with. So we're quite literally in the wrong movie, and the metaphor I like to use is like you're trying out for a movie, whatever, movie set in the 70s, some gangster flick or whatever, right? And you get the part, you audition, you get the part, and then on the day of the first shooting, the worst thing possible, your worst nightmare comes true, and that is you're in the wrong movie. It's actually something from the 19th century or something. That's how you have to think of your own birth. That's how you have to think of all of these users out there, users of your products. I refuse to use the word consumer. It's nasty. And target group is even worse. That is a nasty word I'm not using. Sometimes it gets weird because I need the word, but I talk around it. Okay, so really important. So what design is behavioral architecture. I use this term because it has a better vibration, a better feeling than all design is manipulation. Now, let's go with the nasty one for a second and we'll flip back to this one. All design is manipulation. Because if you don't manipulate a user with a future design, then you are a failure. As a designer, your design is not being used. Are you following me? Someone in the past decided how I will handle this, whatever. So you can only design for the future. You can't design for the past, that's pretty obvious. Not going to waste any time on that. But you can't design on the present either. Because you have a conception, and until you have a rendering and a prototype, it's the future. Right? So you are literally, and that's why I quite like the title, it's not from me, but from the editorial, the future designer. You are literally making the future. And I have kids. I'm worried. Right? So you are behavioral architects. I don't care what field of design you're in. You are deciding, let's make it a little bit woke provocative. You're colonializing the future. Actually, you're sailing into the waters of the future and deciding how the future people move and use transportation and whatever. So the way I like to think of design is like you're dealing with all of these people, all of us, and we have inside of us these Paleolithic algorithms. In the book, I call it the paleorhythms. So this is what behavioral science is based on. This is what Kahneman and other people are talking about. But the reason we have these cognitive biases and heuristics is because we are in the wrong movie. We're in a misfit, right? We're in a misfit situation. So we need to deal with humans the way they are, and they have these paleorhythms, as I like to call it. And let's take something like social media, shall we? We think of this as a modern thing, or maybe even a modern problem, or maybe even a modern pandemic. This is the most archaic thing on earth in a new medium. We want to know who is with who has got cooties, who's got diseases, who has resources, who can you trust, and who do you never turn your back onto. Is that not what we text? Basically. And we have found a very good way to do that. And our algorithms are programmed on envy. We like to fit in, we're a very hierarchical species. We like to fit in conformity bias, but we also like halo effect, right? So if some celebrity or an influencer is holding something or giving some kind of tip on how to do whatever, by doing so, we think we kind of become them. It's sympathetic magic. It's super archaic. We just amplified the shit out of it. That's what we did, is this algorithmically powered gossip. And it works like hell, and it makes us sick. So I recommend Paleolithic Jiu-Jitsu. So little explanation here. In the martial arts, a karate philosophy would be someone hits you hard, you hit back even harder. Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido will pull the person that is punching. So I am suggesting that in design we can think of it this way, right? So people love the path of least resistance. Fantastic. The marketeers of the last 4 decades or 5 decades have used that plenty well, really well. I say in my book, this might as well have been called anti-marketing book. I use in my book, I say this sentence where I say, if you want to find out weaknesses of human beings, study marketing. If you want to understand weaknesses and vices, marketing. If you want to understand strength, anthropology, sociology, political science. So nudging has been going on all along. It's just, what is your end? What do you try to nudge towards? Right? If you go to a supermarket and there's a candy bar, also known as sugar and fat combination, that we love as humans, if you put that at the very end at the cashier at eye level for our toddlers, that's nudging. But the benefiter is Kraft and Nestle. I think we should nudge, but I think we should nudge where the benefiter becomes end users. I told you there's some darkness here. Okay, so in my classes, I have noticed something very, 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 very intense about demographics. Demographics are used to make personas. They're made to use the T word, target groups, and they're used for some other things like, you know, I'm trying to get to the 35-year-old single parents or some shit like that. I have never met a designer, you being the exception, Thomas, that has more than one child. If design was a tribe, you would die out very quickly. Very quickly. Now, that's not the point I'm making here. The point I'm making here is darker or optimistic. You put the spin on it. Stop making stuff that is shiny and sexy for young, sexy, beautiful people. Because they're getting older. If we looked in the mirror, if we looked at the newspaper, this is demographics. This is a horrible picture, but it sums everything up. Your future design, your future user group is going to be weird people, and I'm using the acronym of weird people. Let's just say an aging European society. Your, whatever your age is, but your future users are going to be an aging European society and a desperate society coming in terms of migration. That is a the market opportunity, actually. But since we have this obsession with youth, we like to not see that. Okay, I like it. I really, really like the atmosphere in here. It's good. Let's go to ethics. And I'm just gonna let the slide do it so I don't have to drop F-bombs all the time. So I was naive. 10 years ago, I came into the world of design and I saw and am seeing that you can go to a goddamn MBA or even Ph.D. without a single course in ethics. Maybe 1 or 2 sustainability courses, and maybe, if you're lucky, some anthropology. Why the fuck are we teaching ethics to philosophy students when they're notorious for not doing anything? Nothing wrong with philosophy. I love philosophy. But they are not practical people. They sit around and they drink red wine, which is fantastic. Like, don't get me wrong, but what the fuck are we doing? We should be teaching especially to designers, engineers, and architects because they make the built environment of the future. I mean, I know, I'm not that naive. I know why. It's hard to monetize ethics. So we need to teach our future designers to design for need, not want. And this is what Tomas warned me about. Don't get too papaneki on them. Just a couple of seconds. Okay? We need to design for the real world. We need to solve problems instead of creating desires all the time. There's this company in Austria called IxDA, famous industrial design company. Their freaking tagline is called Designing Desire. They invited me to one of these talks only once because I pointed that out immediately. I'm like, what is wrong with your tagline? And it was a freaking sustainability talk. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's turn to a little bit more positive slide here. Here are some of the chances I see in design. Design can overcome moral distances. Let me explain. You know when your eyes, the stuff in the distance looks smaller. Very similar with morality. The beings that are far away from us, geographically, temporally also, we care less about. So design overcomes that by definition. You are scaling. So you can think of all of these drones. I'm going to have another slide in a second that explains that deeper. But you can think of all of your design decisions as encouraging ethical behavior. Of course you can. If you can't, I don't know who. This is water, by the way. It just looks like a flask. It's not, it's water. You may try it if you don't believe me. So I look at ethical things, okay, in this book. And of course, a lot of that is based on Bruno Latour's work, Parliament of Things, and other thinkers like that. But we need to think of ethical things. Now, why did I choose this picture? Because one of the oldest issues, one of the oldest thought experiments in ethics and moral philosophy is the trolley problem. Right? Some of you are familiar with the trolley problem. Really quickly, I'm standing here. I'm seeing an atrocity is about to happen. Right? There's a train track, and someone is tied to the train track. I can use a lever to divert the train to go to the other. Right? You've heard of it. Okay. And on the other track, I look, and in horror, I see there's another person there. Which one do I kill? It's a horrible thought experiment. It just became very real with autonomous cars. This is no longer philosophical bullshit late at night. the ethical car, the ethical thing, the Tesla, let's say, is programmed to defend, to protect its user, right? And it can ride over the grandmother over here or the toddler over here to avoid the tree. Who do you take out? And once that machine has taken that decision, who's liable? Is it the guy who wrote the algorithm? Is it the designer of the car that seduced people into buying a Tesla? Is it the user? I don't know, frankly. And as a matter of fact, you didn't ask my opinion, but I think autonomous cars are the hugest waste of resources and time, because we're going to have robots stuck in traffic. What are we doing? Right? So I've had this design challenge. Please let me go, right? Please, I'm going to go overboard a little, but you cannot stop this train now, okay? I had this design challenge. With a class of students. They were told to work with Car2Go and Mercedes. Car2Go. And the challenge was make an autonomous car that you can also share. That speculative design workshop, right? This team of students, I swear to God, and you're totally going to believe me because you don't find it shocking, maybe. This team of students put on this final presentation, and they repeat this fucking mantra, which is in today's world where we're overworked and we don't drink enough water and we don't have enough time. We need to create more objects so that people work harder to have less time. They don't say that last part of the mantra, but I added that. They threw up this picture of a little Car2Go car. They made it a smart to look sustainable, and it had a fucking Starbucks cup in the side seat. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, well, the person who's going to be super stressed in the office needs to save some time, and the car will wait downstairs, and they will have already dry cleaned your clothes and picked up a fucking frappuccino. I'm sorry, but in those moments, I lose my cool. Because those are potential students, super smart. My design students are the smartest, the most creative, and we pump them full of this stuff. So there are some of you are thinking at this point, I'm not gonna buy this book. This is like a bummer book, right? Like this is like a party pooper dude here. In Spain, they call it agua fiesta. I'm sorry. There's some lighter passages though. So, by the way, this is not a book. I'm not pitching this at all. I don't give a shit if you buy this book or not. I want the message to get out there. I do think it's an important message. There are sectors out there that have what is called quality by design, like the pharmaceutical industry, like the car industry. They go through rigorous testing and iterations throughout the process, because you don't want somebody to take a medicine and then keel over and die or hallucinate or something, right? Or go into fits or whatever. So before you roll out a vaccine or a medicine, you go through rigorous testing. Same with the car companies. In design, I'm exaggerating slightly, but in design, you can make whatever the hell you want out of whatever the hell you want. The Wild West. I think the fat years are over. I'm so sorry. I am speaking about regulation here. Which nicely segues into this design leverages system one. This is Mr. Kahneman, Daniel Kahneman, who just died very recently. We need to leverage system one. It needs to be based on use, not consumption, right? The designer, the marketeers are very, very good at using rational instruments. We need to go for the unconscious. We need to make things like sustainability sexy, for example. That is one very good strategy. I'm a massive fan of Elinor Ostrom, managing the commons. some of you are thinking, where does this guy stand politically? Right? He's got kind of a shirt like a libertarian might wear. Right? If you're going by the phenotype, I'm actually a capitalist. I find it quite interesting that I have never seen a designer that does not position themselves on the far left. Ever. But you work in turbo capitalism. That's kind of interesting. I propose a third way here. So we're not talking about communism, and we're not talking about everything privatized, laissez-faire, invisible hand, free economics. I'm talking about the management of resources in groups. Why do I think this is the way to go? Because 99.9999% of our evolution was spent in small groups or tribes. Let's design that way. So this is a segue, I know. This is the last couple of slides. There is a huge epidemic of mental health issues in the creative sector. I'm not saying this, you can look this up. I have different ideas for this. I think one of them is cognitive dissonance. You're very smart people, and I think designers realize that they're in many ways part of the issue, but we continue making stuff to have GDP grow. And many times we burn out in the process. If you're constantly reinventing stuff and designs are part of you, then you're literally burning out. If you're constantly destroying the stuff from before and it was yours, you're destroying some of yourself. So this is what I addressed earlier. Add value. Think of your designs, your apps, your clothes, your cars, your whatever as drones being sent all over the world. Imagine you're successful as a designer. I'm serious here. I think we should adopt a moral compass, like the golden rule of Jesus or the imperative from Immanuel Kant. If my design is super successful, do I live with that? That's a good thing to ask yourself. Like if I'm a rock star and it gets scaled like crazy, do I want that? I think design can help with the effective altruism movement. Like crazy on a superficial level, help them make better web pages, help them make altruism easier. But you can also think of it as your own things as being altruistically programmed. Go on information diets, please. Right? So if there's a huge buffet here, human beings will overeat like crazy. Obviously, that's built into us by our evolution. Same with information. It's not the more the better. Recently I've been starting to say we need to close our minds a little bit. Forget this, let's open our minds and think out of the box. We're going crazy with our information overload. I recommend silence. I recommend mindfulness, not full mind. I recommend going away. Here's a passage that I quite like. I like how it sounds. It kind of came to me one day. And so I'll just read it to you really quickly. I'm almost done. Am I becoming fearful of strangers? Are my applications turning me into xenophobe? Is this city, everything is decided by techno-scientific determinism? And I am ushered like a zombie via algorithms and the hive's recommendations. I resist. I walk away from the material, simple soul that I am. So I don't use applications, but not because I'm a boomer, which I'm not that old, but not because I'm an old dinosaur. It's because I like human interaction. I like to be lost. I like culture shock. I like friction. Because overcoming friction leads to mental health. Every psychologist, East and West, knows that. It is not convenience. Let's get out of our islands, out of our ivory towers, our archipelagos. Let's talk to each other, please. We need anthropologists, designers, ethicists, computer programmers, all of them to solve the wicked problems of this world. Be good ancestors. I like that sentence a lot. It's not from me. It's from Barry Barlow, who wrote the manifesto of the free internet. Friend of mine, I met him a few times. Be good ancestors. You want to look back and say, I was a good ancestor. Because our species is very young. Stop this doomsday bullshit. Like we're at the end, existentialist crisis. The average species is at least 1 million years. We've got like 250,000 under our belt. We're in fucking puberty right now. All going crazy, all pimple-faced. Right? Let's not give up. Let's not go pan-human and post-whatever. It's a little silly. We're very young. Second to last slide. Do we want a dystopia or do we want a protopia? I use this term because it's more useful. It's not utopia. Utopia means literally no place. Like etymologically means no place. Utopia is no place. Protopia, one step at a time, one step at a time. And I use different types of aesthetics here. This is cyberpunk and this is solar punk. Kind of cheesy sometimes, I admit, but the idea is good. It's punk, like I'm gonna have an attitude, but it is renewable energy powered. Whereas cyberpunk is powered by old patriarchal systems and petroleum. I have up here all of my sources. You are welcome to take pictures of this. This is some of the stuff I forced into my head. I had to upload. Well, we can run through this afterwards. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that I have so much respect for. Thank you so much for that amazing energy in here. What we're going to do now is we're going to sit up here and you're going to hit me with really hard questions. I'm a little worried. Ready? Let's do it. Everybody.
Thank you so much, Michael. So you can grab some refreshments. Please feel free to move around a bit. I did mention in the post that we want to have some serious conversations, some hard questions. We will not take too much time, but I think by now you can see that Michael's ideas sometimes are controversial or ready to be attacked. So please, if you can challenge his ideas, you can come to the stage. So we will do get up here.
I realize that many of the things I say might be incorrect. I'm not a designer, and so I'm very much ready to learn. Let's have a conversation.
So the way we will do this, I have a lot of questions, so we can have this like one-on-one. But I talk to Michael all the time, so it will be not that challenging. But we thought that you can jump in anytime. I will, if you raise your hand, and we'll answer your questions. And if you're super brave, you can just, like a fishbowl session, come up to the stage. It is a bit harder here.
You float up here and you take part in the conversation.
You can kind of sneak in here. There's a stair, and you can just sit in. Okay, that's something we sometimes use in the academia as well. Fishbowl session, and if you want to get in and it's full, you can still come up and change someone, and then that person will come down. Okay, let's see if that works. But you can also raise your hand.
Sure, we can.
If you come up, you will kind of join the conversation. All right? Yeah, let's go.
Hi. First of all, very good presentation. I
think
just by judging the cover of the book, I would not like. See the how burning match everything.
That was from a friend of mine, a graphic designer. It's not my own, but yes, thank you. I did it. Yeah.
So my question is around two slices in my presentation.
Slides.
Yeah. One of those is the need, not want.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So let me paint a little bit background. So I don't wear a watch. You don't wear a watch. Obviously, people don't really need a watch to tell times nowadays. Mm-hmm. But still a lot of people buy, let's say, a Rolex, right? So obviously, it's far more than just a symbol, because that person may feel good. It's not just for others, but for that person, him or herself. You just ask anyone who has 20 pairs of shoes, cocktail dresses, they know. They just feel good. Do they really need that many? No. So now that leads to your second slide I mentioned. It's really the mental health, the well-being they feel, right? We have a term called retail therapy.
Retail therapy?
Therapy, they just go buy shopping, they feel good. They don't really need that.
The doctor says go shopping?
Yes. Okay, your doctors may not tell you to feel
Just
good.
go shopping? Really? Okay.
Okay, if it's first time the concept is okay. Some people, I'm not talking about the boomers you mentioned buying a Harley Davidson just to feel young. Even young people nowadays buy things just to feel good, not really the need.
Yeah.
So because Apple Watch completely abolished about 90% of the watch market, but they do bring up and reconcile the need and want, because you need to tell your heartbeat, your whatever, right? So you as an expert who teaches, educate, marketing, how would you reconcile all those? You mentioned you love conflicts and frictions. How would you reconcile all these? Do we really still need the luxury market, for example? Do you really need $4,000 Louis Vuitton bag?
Stop there. Like 50 questions in there. It's all really good questions. Let's start with the Apple Watch. Do you know how I check if my heart is beating too fast? Oh, I'm nervous. Do I need a gadget that tells me how many steps I took? I took the fucking steps. Do I need something that tells me you slept bad? No. I know exactly when I sleep bad. And here's the dark part. Do I want to give that sort of information to the cloud? And I should actually point down because it's a pull-down server farm. One. So we've created a new need to feel dependent on this. Now, the other thing that you mentioned is what in anthropology we call the handicap principle, right? So the peacock displays an amazing plume of feathers, but when a cat wants to eat it, when a predator wants to eat it, it can't even fly away. So it's like fake it until you make it in biology, right? And the way that you would explain that is sexual selection. So right now it is sexy, quote unquote, to burn through resources, right? You mentioned the Rolex watch, or the equivalent of the peacock tail is the Porsche Cayenne. Because that person is basically signaling to anyone else out there that we're in times of peak oil, but I am the silverback gorilla, and I'm going to spend 4 times as much on petroleum. Right? So these are all signals to show something about our fitness. And a lot of it is based on actually handicapping ourselves. It's a kind of a brain teaser, but it's an interesting one, I think. Luxury. You would be surprised. I am not against at all. Luxury is a very good way to design sustainably. Because if I have a little Louis Vuitton bag for 5,000 euros, I'm going to take really good care of that. I'm against throwaway society, and I'm against this idea, and that makes it full round, of making us all feel inadequate and constantly telling us that we will be more happy with the next gadget. That I'm against. I have nothing against beautiful old cars or beautiful old watches or whatever. But very, very good question. Thank you.
That was my purpose.
You got it. You don't have to read it anymore.
Let's go on with other questions here, please.
I think we woke up tomorrow and it was like.
It's just a very hypothetical question.
Okay.
Maybe it's not even relevant for it. But you touched a bit of it. capitalism,
Yeah.
and just hypothetically, if you wake up tomorrow and we just switch to a communist society,
Okay.
how do you think that our relationship would change towards design, and
Okay.
how would design change in a communist, not like a very far leftist Marxist communist society, but like in a communist society?
An anarcho-communist sort of thing, or okay. Beautiful, beautiful question. There's a tiny little anecdote there. With some students, I went on a design excursion, and we went to Belgrade, and we went to the ex-Yugoslav Museum of Design. So there I saw top-down design, not grassroots people saying I want gadgets, but Tito, the dictator Tito, saying the phone's going to look like that. And guess what? It was pretty good. There's some really beautiful design classics that some of you might remember, like the IxDA phone, the flat orange one. Okay, so again, I'm not anti-capitalist, and I don't think anyone working in design can be. Honestly, I am totally against marketing. That they are different. But my dad is an economist, and he would define, when I ask my dad, what is market? What is the market? You know what he says? He says two people. And you're like, wait, where's the rest of the sentence? But he says two people, unless they ignore each other and go into monasteries or whatever, you're basically in a market situation. You're throwing symbols across each other. You're trading. Market is two people. Capitalism is making money on markets. I don't know how you could be against it, to be totally honest. But marketing has nothing to do anymore with supply and demand. It is creating demand to burn, and in the process burn through our resources. So let me just riff on that a little bit further. Here's the tragedy, okay? Here's the tragedy. I want to look super hip. Well, I hope I don't fall off the thing here. I want to look super hip, right? And so I buy some kind of outfit, and I want you to think I look super cool. And you actually look at me and you're like, you look like an idiot. And so I'm like, damn it, I must put on a different outfit. How about now? And you're like, you still look like an idiot. The tragedy is that we burn through resources in trying to appear a certain way, right? So if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, can we talk? I want to write a thesis on sustainable fashion. I say sustainable and fashion are oxymoronic. You cannot be, sustainability is based on obsolescence. Everyone's wearing Adidas Gazelles right now because the Vans are stupid now. We were told, apparently. And in a couple months, no one's going to wear Gazelles anymore, right? So that I'm against, because it's based on a mental crisis. I don't even remember the original question, but oh yeah, I do. Marx wrote about fetishism, and he criticized that part, and I think he was right in that. The fetishism of objects has taken us to runaway consumerism. And until we make them circular, so sustainable textile, not fashion, then we can become friends. That is awesome. If you can make it sort of a skin of shoes or whatever, now they're gazelles. Next time they're whatever. That is where we need to go.
I want to
Nice
touch
one.
on that,
Yeah.
because there's a very important part of the book. And in many parts of the book, you introduce the idea of the tragedy of the commons.
Yeah.
And now in this presentation, you talked a lot about sharing economy, and would it be nice to have it as that attractive as owning a car?
Yeah.
Now I saw a lot of research, and I in fact worked with car sharing services, and they explain this to me that they are like wrecking the cars. Like, people don't care about shared assets. So that's kind of the tragedy of the commons in a sense. But you still are like for sharing economy. What's I could not get the
this guy's
solution for it.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
No, that's really good. I absolutely wrestle with that.
Yeah, the sharing economy is kind of going down, and it's not because it's like not monetizable. It's because people are wrecking the stuff that are not
vandalism.
theirs.
Absolutely. I wrestle with that. So I can turn the question sort of over to you, and once again we look in the mirror. Where are you more likely to pollute or to put out your cigarette or to pee even or something? In your own backyard or in the public park? It's the public park because someone else cleans it up. So I do think we take much better care of private property.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is the bag, the Louis Vuitton bag would be the
absolutely,
same.
Absolutely.
Higher.
Absolutely. The tragedy of the commons is a pessimistic outcome of what we call a collective action problem. Okay, so listen, I mean, sorry, that sounds arrogant, especially me sitting up there. Listen carefully. Collective action problem is something like this. No one woke up this morning and said, yes, another day to fuck up this planet. But we all do in our collective actions. So the problem with collective action is that nobody wants to step out and live a super anarcho-communist lifestyle that I fully respect, because you're the jackass, you're outside of the system, right? And also no nation wants to become super sustainable because they're the jackasses. But if we say 1, 2, 3, sustainability, it would work. Which is very, very, very hard. So that's a collective action problem. And oftentimes it leads to the tragedy of the commons, which is why we overfish the oceans, which is why we have traffic jams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Elinor Ostrom, who I am a huge fan of because of her ideas and because she was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize in economics and a lot of other things, she found 8 design principles, very easy to Google, 8 design principles of Ostrom on how to have common resources managed without the tragedy of the commons. So the e-scooters, do you remember one day we woke up and it seemed like they kind of airdropped e-scooters on the world? Didn't it see, there was a day before e-scooters and then all of a sudden all these Insta hipsters scooting around. My first idea was fantastic, sharing economy. Wow, we're going forward. Not really, because then I started seeing how they're getting abused and thrown into rivers and vandalized, etc. And that's because Lime or whatever company did not think of accountability, right? So I can lock my scooter and then kick the other one. And they will never know who it was. That's why people kick up. So yes, we need some surveillance in that sense, accountability. You already have a book. You can't play.
And how could we, like, I don't know, motivate politicians to have more for the money, but for, like, let's say, in an idealistic world, World Resource if it's reachable. I don't think so, but how could we take steps towards that?
Okay, so the reason I wrote this book is because I count on designers. I think you have the biggest lever. Mic drop. Full stop. I think you have the biggest lever because you literally make the behavior of the future people. If you don't, you are a failure as a designer. I think I said that very clearly, right? So that's one. So I see designers sort of like the cheese, not the cheese, the whatever inside of the sandwich. Okay, top down is the user who wants things and have comfort and have beautiful life objects in their life. And bottom, top down is the government. I see designers somewhere in the middle, working in both directions. I do think we can make incentives to have users behave more sustainable. So it's kind of the opposite of dark patterns. When you buy a flight, When I buy a flight, I make sure my phone is on airplane mode, my doors are locked because it's a fucking minefield. You know what I mean? It's like there's double negatives. Like, are you sure you want no insurance ever? Right? And they have to untick some things and tick others, and there's round buttons and square buttons. That is UX and UI design. There are people getting paid good money to make people fall into traps, to make people shop more. The same sort of logic can absolutely be used towards sustainability.
Let me reflect back on that, because you came up in the book with this the Hippocratic oath, or the oath of designers, right?
Yeah.
And I kept hearing this for years.
Yeah.
Like Mike Montero, you mentioned.
Yeah.
So Montero wrote about this. Papanek kind of wrote about this back in the 70s, 80s.
And Dieter Rams.
Dieter Rams to some extent. A couple of books in early 2000s. And I remember sitting in Lyon at a conference 5 years ago, and a group of really high-profile designers sitting in a circle and discussing just that. Oh, we need to fight fake news. It was huge back then. Fake news was the phenomenon that we wanted to fight. I don't know about any oaths from the past 40 years that survived to the extent that we can also like share it with the students for this example. Why is that? What would be the root cause us not having an oath? Because that is something that we discuss all the time, but never came about.
So those of you who are not familiar with this, if you go to med school, if you go to medical school, you have to sign something that says you're not going to kill people. Sorry, that's not funny. But it's still so obvious. And you should extend human life as long as possible. That sort of thing for design. Why don't we have it? Here's the thing, and I took out some of my dark slides. Poor students get those ones. But I have this picture of, and then I have Metallica quote up there, master of puppets, and it's marketing. I think designers need to emancipate themselves from the slavery, from the mental slavery of marketing, right? I think it is marketing. If you are constantly catering to marketing, then of course we can have a Hippocratic oath, because it sucks for marketing. Like I have a consultancy, besides teaching, I try to spread this sort of information. It's not doing that well, because my message sucks for business. In the current business, my message is going to be good in a few years when we run out of all the resources and people are like, oh shit, how do we design circular? So that skill set is going to make you bank if you want to get rich in the future. Or you can be the dinosaur, the ostrich that sticks the head in the ground and say, I'm not going to have kids anyways. Sorry.
Isn't marketing just a tool to push something? And that's something.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you. I always slip into this sort of cynicism. To me, there's two types. Okay, do you know the what's it called? The parable of the carrot and the stick, right? The stick is a way to coerce a donkey to move, and the carrot is a way to make the donkey move also. I am sick and tired of design being the carrot, right? But if we use marketing to show awareness of a product, I mean, this is kind of a marketing event for my damn book. Of course it is. And I think it is important to get this message out, and so I do need to do some posts and stuff. But the seducer, they are different. I don't like the seducer role of marketing. And so I do think we could have a Hippocratic oath. Designers cannot graduate without signing that I will not make stuff that is not circular, for example. We could do that. Or that is not based on mental illness. We could do that. I will not make dark patterns. You're worried about your enrollment? Are you worried about your enrollment in your master program?
Yeah. I am. I'm worried about my company, actually.
No, absolutely. He steered us in exactly the right direction. This is what we need to talk about tonight. And now,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
feel free to jump in and come to the stage if you super disagree. And
I
have to,
was listening, and finally you put in a certain way as well. So my background is, it's okay. Can you hear me or no? Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I don't think it's on. Is it? Not really. Just speak out loud.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
I'll just do it now.
Yeah, perfect.
So my, yeah, I think it's better too. So my background is in marketing.
Who is from marketing? That's good. That's marketing.
So, but the reason why I was listening to you because I realized that it really depends on how people see the definition of marketing based on their background as well. What the way how you put them in together things at the end was basically you see ethical marketing and non-ethical marketing.
Okay.
Meaning that ethical marketing is that mission that actually serves for good. So there we have ethical businesses and we have unethical businesses. So incentivizing certain actions that actually can lead not good for you in the long run. So this is how I see it. Because like you mentioned, like marketing. So I was like, okay, what's your definition of marketing?
Well,
And
I just gave two there.
Yeah, no,
As one as a spread of information, fantastic, has always been used. The one I criticize is the seducer. The one that makes us feel like we're idiots until we buy something new.
Yeah, okay. No, I understand. I understand.
And I like your dichotomy there of ethical and unethical. But before we can make that sort of judgment, we need to teach our design students ethics. Like, did you have any ethic courses in your marketing career?
No, but there's another side comes right. Because we touched also shared economy.
Yeah.
And then comes people's attitude, because then you also mentioned, okay, we have you kind of like boil into one group. Okay, people don't treat share common things
right.
as a private thing,
right.
First. But then within that, we also have different groups. For example, people who have awareness.
Yes.
Of why it matters to take care of things, and people who don't have an awareness and just see within the self-centric why you shouldn't why to better as much as I can.
Yes.
Within the given circumstances.
Yes.
Right, and then everything comes down. In my understanding currently, everything comes down to awareness.
Awareness. Yes.
Awareness.
Yes.
And then if you want to cope with that problem, then it comes down how can you bring up awareness
yes.
within that consumer group who will be utilizing a certain product.
Yes.
Certain product.
You don't want the fully aware customer group.
Yeah, but it depends then what kind of problem you are marketing.
True.
What kind of problem
True.
you solve.
True.
Based on that,
absolutely.
you actually interact with certain type of group of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know how you all feel about Elon Musk. I think he's publicly losing his mind right now in front of a global stage. But there's one thing that I find very, very interesting, and it has to do with marketing. He didn't just make the most desirable e-car, he made the most desirable car. Now, whether that is actually sustainable or not is another discussion, but he made a car for people to say, like the Peacock, I have a lot of money and I care about this planet. He made sustainability sexy. He made the Toyota, Prius look like shit. That is awesome design, in my opinion. So I think we might be able to agree on something like this. We need you guys. So austerity and you should consume less and you're so guilty and only hemp bags and gray on gray is not working. We've tried that since the 60s. It's not working.
Yeah, but there comes very important part as well. Why not here, right? For example.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, because sometimes, especially when solving a problem, we think that, and when you work also with teams within businesses, I consult teams like
okay.
SaaS, technological teams.
Sure.
Then you see you have marketing as a separate team, sales as a separate team, design as a separate team, and when and customer service is a separate thing as well. And in a nutshell, you actually solve one same problem.
Yes.
Because like you can't really market a product that doesn't solve that problem.
Yes.
That is not easy to use. That is not designed attractive.
Yes.
And that is not designed also for like easy adaptability.
That was kind of the point of that picture I had of the Ivory archipelago. We need to get off all of our islands and work together as teams in one creative way. I say in this book that design is in the wrong department. I think we need to move design away from arts, not because I'm against art. I love art. But we should also move it away from business, and I'm not against business. I think we need to move the department of the future designers into public policy, because you are political in your decisions. Now, don't think political like Viktor Orban, like political in the sense you in your marketing efforts and in your design team efforts are steering behavior of the future. That is political. Right, so I watched just yesterday or a couple of nights ago, I watched this documentary on the Juul cigarette on Netflix. These guys were trying to they invented the vaping basically, and they wanted to help a lot of smokers quit the carcinogenic stuff in cigarettes. And they made a way to vape, right? And what happened? Fantastic.
Yeah,
but the kids started using this at age 12 like candy.
Yeah, because the solution was over there. They marketed to the audience who was already smoking and looking at a healthier version.
It's not. But
yeah,
okay.
there's this one time like a friend of mine's like thinking with I'm not a smoker, but I see, for example, why people switch to.
Sure. No, I do too.
So you have
smells like bubble gum.
As well. For example, certain group is okay. This is my motivation because one product can address many different needs.
Yeah.
The question comes, okay, what's the majority of the people needs on, and whom are you actually marketing? Right?
Okay. So here.
Marketing means basically whom are you trying to address?
We're gonna stay up all night, and I love this. You know, let's go out tonight and drink a couple of beers.
Let's grab a beer.
But I personally don't believe in the free will. Let's start there, because we hear very often, oh, but people have a choice to say this or this. Bullshit. You didn't choose to be born into a family. You did not choose to be born into a certain culture. You did not choose anything. At all. You can't choose the next thought. Right? And so that's where we start. If we come in there as a seduction machine, then as a marketeer, you cannot believe in free will.
Let me hold your thought there.
Yes.
Because, free will will be here
all
for
night,
9 a.m.
Yeah.
But you said, and we will go for another 10 minutes and then we will wrap up just for expectations. You said it's the seductive type of marketing that you have problems with.
Yeah.
Now you also say in your book that we cannot fight having the paleo algorithm running in our head, and you also describe the phenotype of people, and to make things sexier.
Yeah.
And then you say people like to be lazy. People are lazy. We just have to accept the fact that people are lazy. So you just don't fight.
The one with.
He does this because I have a really tough question for him. He's just trying to get some time. So I don't get the idea of what's the difference between seductive marketing and you saying we have to use the paleo brain of people to kind of seduce again and nudge people to the right behavior. Because what you're saying is, well, we have a 40,000-year-old algorithm running or whatever it is, and you cannot change that, but you can use it.
Yes.
So what is that if it's not seductive?
No, absolutely. Once again, all design is manipulation, but since that has a really bad sort of vibe, let's call it behavioral architecture, it's all nudging.
Right.
It's all nudging. And how is my nudging different? I'm totally opinionated, in case you haven't noticed. I have the opinion that we need to go to a circular economy. I have an opinion that we need to design for a more pro-social species because we're running our heads in and we've become very polarized, in case you haven't noticed. Right? And so let's take the biggest collective action problem, or the biggest tragedy of the common, global warming, right? And it's very overwhelming, and we're like, oh my God, this is so bad. We have climate anxiety. But if we break it into tiny little moments, into billions and billions and billions of little moments happening on this globe, then it can be beat, or it can be mitigated, it can be handled. Okay. So designer objects have scripts in them. And that's the power of design. A throwaway cup has written in it, throw me away really quickly. Do not hang on to me. Whereas an old mug that you got from your grandmother or something, a cherished object that says, take care of me. Don't put me in the dishwasher. Don't put me too close to the edge or whatever. There are scripts written in our objects. And you make those scripts as designers. And we need to teach that. So that example, that example of the mug, we can teach designers before going on the market. To make, for example, this is based on Jonathan Chapman's work, a great designer in my opinion. We can make a beautiful coffee cup, which the more you drink from it, the prettier it gets. Ornaments start growing inside because of the tannin residue. That is awesome. That is the opposite of planned obsolescence. I hope everyone saw that. And you can do that with sneakers. Look, I hack my shoes, right? These are like 10, 12 years old or something. And the other day I stepped on a shard of glass, okay? And that sucks because they were now no longer waterproof. I fixed them. It cost like 50 euros or something, shoemaker. I told my friend said, you're an idiot. Just get a new pair of boots. And I said something that I think is good. Sometimes something comes out. And I said, if your car has a flat tire, do you replace the entire car? And then he was quiet. But we are told by our linear economy and designers, I am sorry, but we are told that nothing is worth repairing. We treat our objects so shittily. We need a better relationship with our designed objects. And if I can just say one more thing, even some of our gadgets, I call them burps and farts of our gadgets, they sound so technophile, all these beeps and bings and I think that is part of the reason we can get rid of them so easily. If we made them, I'm exaggerating now, but if we made them like a crying baby when it needs battery, we will take a lot better care of them. I'm serious. Let's work with animism in design.
That would be my last question, or not really a question. When I browsed through your book, it is very apparent that you examine a lot of design and UX research techniques in your book. And then you also introduce a lot of biases, but also a lot of things that I never heard before, or I heard before, but I never considered them as tools. Mm-hmm. So what do you think anthropology brings to design, UX design, industrial design, you name it? And how can we because we love tools like canvases, you know that by now, canvases, sure. Maps, all kinds of tools that we can actually use for crafting, because we are crafters.
Sure, of course.
So how can you translate anthropology into design tools and crafting?
So this is not spontaneous. I get asked this all the time, right? When I say I come to Istanbul to work in the interaction design department, people ask me, why an anthropologist? Sorry, not a good idea to have here. Anyway, and I have this learned by heart answer, which is everything that is not nature was made by the designers of the past. By humans, for humans. Mic drop. You're not going to design, even if you are post-human, the tree doesn't come in and purchase something. You're going to make stuff for Homo sapiens. Even if you make a little thingy for a little cat or something, the cat does not go in and say, can you get me this color? I think that's a funny thought also. It's like, you're going to make stuff for humans, so we need to understand humans really, really well, and I need help.
Okay, but why anthropology? Why not cognitive sciences, psychology? That we all
Okay. Anthropology, maybe it's a little arrogant. For me, anthropology, anthropo is the humanology, study of human. Cognitive science, psychology, political science, all under anthropology.
Right.
Not in a hierarchical sense, but we need to study humans.
Yeah, well, I think
so behavioral science has become super fashionable, right. But let's be, once again, honest, it's been used on how to make people purchase more. Once again. Kahneman and all of this stuff, Tversky and whatever, those guys are amazing. And they use these paleo rhythms, but it's to raise GDP per capita.
Which is a good thing because you're a capitalist, right?
I believe in capitalism, absolutely. I believe in capitalism. If we're going to flaunt things like peacocks and show our phenotype and be all cool and stuff, and it changes every couple of months,
right.
Then that stuff needs to be circular, obviously. Because we live on the third planet from the sun, to quote Jimi Hendrix, right?
I think it's a good way to have a conversation with Jimi Hendrix.
But please stick around. I want to meet some of you and share a beer or coffee, whatever you're having. Thank you so much for all of this, and thank you for putting up. There's anger here. There's frustration here, and sometimes I feel a little bad after a talk like this because I purge. I'm like, oh, and you walk away like, oh no, I'm sorry about that. I feel super light now. I'm sorry, okay?
Okay, just hands up who did ask a question, just to help Michael out to make the decision. Because if you want the book, if you don't want the book, you don't have to raise your hand. But you now have to decide who would give the
marketing guy. But you have to read it.
Yeah, well, I got application right now, right?
And then you have to write me an email or whatever, and love to hear your opinion.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This concludes our evening. Thank you, Michael, again for the conversations and the presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the venue. It's a beautiful place. I really love this place.